It's safe to say that Pixar is one of the best and most well-known animation studios in the world. Everyone loves Pixar films, so it's hard to find moments that fall flat in these movies, but sometimes even the best films have their moments. Whether they're unsatisfying, forced, or leave you scratching your head, we're going to talk about some of these moments in Pixar movies. But before we get into all of the Pixar moments that left us wanting more, subscribe to CBR and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never miss any of our Disney Pixar videos. Without further ado, let's get into it. Turbo Anticlimax. Wreck-It Ralph is fun, but it has one big weakness. It's a little complicated. Tons of ins and outs. Things get rushed. Case in point, the turbo reveal. So in this Wreck-It world, jumping games is called going turbo because Turbo was the name of a racing character who tried to leave his home game of Turbo Time to take over the classic racer Road Blasters. It turns out that Turbo became the king of Sugar Rush. It's a huge reveal. He's been slowly reprogramming the game, making Vanellope all glitchy so that he can be added to the game's roster of racers. Once he's exposed and Vanellope wins the race, he gets immediately eaten by a cybug. That's a little anticlimactic. Imagine what bringing him in for trial would have done to the community of game characters, or at least give him a few more minutes of havoc as Turbo. Brave new Scottish clans. Sure, it's no Toy Story or WALL-E, but it's not bad. It certainly did well at the box office, but there's one weird thing about it. Fake Scottish clans. Jeez, at least Pocahontas got the name of her Native American tribe right. But while there are historical reasons why it's rude to just call the Native Americans Indians or give a tribe a goofy movie name, Scotland is a real place. They could have tried a little harder. Look, Disney stories are rarely historically accurate. They wouldn't be fun if they were completely accurate. And maybe they didn't want to insult people from actual Scottish clans? Either way, Clan MacGuffin? It's funny, but it's not funny enough for the parents who got dragged to the theater. Boat ride of boring. Cars 2 gets a lot of flack. Many viewers believe it falls flat for a number of reasons, with the biggest one being the lack of expressive characters. When a Pixar character smiles or laughs, they throw their whole body into it. It's really expressive. That's missing in Cars and Cars 2 most of the time. The cars just sort of roll along, you know, like cars, but the boats are much worse. Check out this scene from Cars 2 where Finn McMissile hitches a ride on Krabby the Boat in search of his pal Tomber. They get stopped by a patrol boat which is looking for Finn, who just escaped a huge oil rig by faking his death. Pay attention to the mouths of the boats. Isn't there something missing? That's because their mouths are moving, but the rest of them is still just a bunch of lifeless metal. It's quite odd. DINO false starts. Positives first. The Good Dinosaur looks incredible. The attention to detail in the natural world around our protagonist is absurdly high, and man, that firefly scene, that in and of itself is art. So what's the problem? Well, there's one part in particular that just didn't work, and that's the false start near the beginning where Arlo should have begun his adventure, but his dad dies instead. Basically, the dinos are farmers, and there's a human, Spot, stealing their grain. Arlo, the runt of the family, doesn't have the heart to kill Spot when the latter is caught in a trap. So Arlo's dad takes him out to track Spot to a ravine. Arlo is saved from drowning in a flash flood by his dad, who drowns instead. And only after this does Arlo chase Spot into another river, and they both get swept away. So why? Because dead dads in ravines? Mufasa? Come on, Disney. Just let Arlo get lost first and get this story rolling. Carl protects Kevin. Let's look back at Carl's story arc. He starts out as a cute kid who bonds with his future wife over a shared passion for the adventures of famous explorer Charles F. Muntz. Many years and one sad miscarriage later, Carl's wife Ellie passes away before they have enough money to travel to Paradise Falls, a remote South American region where Muntz disappeared to find a giant species of exotic bird. But even though Carl is inspired to lift his house into the air with weather balloons to get to Paradise Falls, he's not so happy to have Russell, the Boy Scout, along for the ride. When the giant bird befriends them upon arriving at Paradise Falls, he's not happy with the bird either. So when he and Russell finally meet an elderly Muntz in his old dirigible and Muntz reveals his plan to capture the bird, Carl suddenly tries to protect the bird. Why? Because Muntz looks evil in the dim candlelight? Carl should have found a reason to like that bird more first. Below the belt. Remember when the globe falls off its moorings in Toy Story and begins rolling after Buzz Lightyear on Andy's bed? It's totally lifted out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But sometimes Pixar includes some more risque innuendo that you don't want to see if you're with your parents and you're just old enough to get it. One example is in Ratatouille, where our young human hero, Alfredo, tries to confess his love for Colette. He wants to downplay his crush on her, so he keeps saying he has this tiny little, and gee, what could be so little? That's when Colette looks down below Alfredo's belt. The implication is clear. Disney used to be a lot worse. You can search YouTube for freeze frames of old Disney films where inappropriate visual references are snuck in, but they're easy to miss. This one isn't. Not enough Tamatoa. Moana is about a strong-willed Polynesian princess who must save her island from blight by finding the great trickster god Maui, so he can help reunite the goddess Te Fiti with her heart. On her way, she gets tricked by none other than Maui himself, attacked by weird pirates, encounters a villainous greedy coconut crab, and then, after she escapes that guy, wait, is this a Disney film or Homer's Odyssey? Because we haven't even gotten to Taka, the giant volcanic demon who's responsible for keeping the heart separate from Te Fiti, even though it was Maui who stole the heart in the first place. See where we're going with this? There's no actual main villain. And that would be fine, but tonally, the way they set it up, Tamatoa really feels like the villain. He gets a song. He's basically like Ursula the Sea Witch. He's the kind of villain a Disney movie needs for the heroine to outsmart, which Moana does very quickly. In a previous era, a character like Tamatoa would have been the villain of the entire film. But in this case, he's kind of just one baddie in an episodic quest. Kind of weird for a single movie. Cars living in junkyards. Cars is super awkward. Look, maybe it's your favorite, but here's the thing. Can you think of another Pixar film where characters live around discarded body parts? Because if you think about it, the world of Cars must be terrifying if you're a car. Imagine driving down the road and seeing broken glass, tire marks, and the occasional hubcap. That's like seeing arms and legs strewn about in a George Romero zombie film. Which brings us to a particularly jarring moment. One of the cars, Mater, lives in a junkyard. That's like living in a morgue if you're a car. Just contemplate that. In this world, cars can die. Mater lives in and around dead cars, and the movie acts like it's nothing at all, as though the worst implication is mild disappointment for Mater. They could have thought that through more. Inflexible dialogue. Maybe it's Holly Hunt's voice. Maybe it's Mr. Incredible's dumbstruck dad face. Either way, that flexible moment on the rooftop in The Incredibles is kind of awkward. Now, as we've discussed, there are good awkward moments in some Disney films, but this part in The Incredibles makes you feel like your grandfather is there pulling your cheeks with his ancient mitts while you watch this. Granted, it takes place in a flashback during Mr. and Mrs. Incredible's younger days, but some people view it as a little off. But then, maybe this point isn't completely off message if it's off tone. Modern middle-class life stultifies Bob and Helen. The banality of living with kids in a suburban household with this expectation of cleanliness and stodginess is exactly the world most of us live in or will live in one day. And when that day comes, moments on a rooftop where two young people meet and hit on each other will seem improper, uncomfortable, and unwelcome. So maybe it's the audience that's falling flat here. Still, there's something about the execution of this little moment that seems completely off. Buzz stays still. Okay, Riddle us this, dear viewers. How the heck does Buzz Lightyear think to stay still whenever Andy's in the room? Think about it. The whole time, he's convinced he's a real space hero. All of his interactions with Woody are predicated on him not understanding Woody's jealousy. He doesn't know what it means to the other toys to be loved by a child because he thinks he's real. So why does he stay still when Andy is around? There's no magic governing when toys move or don't based on the presence of kids. Consider Sid. When Woody and Buzz are trapped at Sid's house, they encounter all of his mutilated creations. When Sid plans to launch Buzz into the air with an exploding rocket, the other toys choose to rescue him by scaring Sid, coming to life in front of him and talking to him. So why, for the love of Donald Duck, does Buzz Lightyear stay frozen in front of Andy before he learns he's a toy? Not everything has to make sense. But when your cartoon world has some rules, like staying still near kids so you don't scare them, it's weird when the rules change. Those were just some Pixar moments that fell a little short of expectations. Do you agree with this list? Are there any moments that we may have missed? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more Disney Pixar videos from CBR. Thanks for watching.